First of all, thanks for joining us. Ger, you said there's 2,000 tonne of peat, and with the best will in the world, I think 45 to 50,000 tonne that's used in Ireland per year. And if you add 50% of something else to it, would it be fair to say that that's only about 8 to 9% of what's required in Ireland for the year?
Deputy Fitzmaurice, there's probably a requirement of that's about 60,000 cubes, which is about 15 to 18,000 tonnes. So it's slightly higher percentage. It might be just over 15%. But as we know, the growing season is upon us now, so what's important here is the facility is up and running ASAP. And that's what the initial 2,000 tonnes will do, is to get product produced and made available to the Irish growers.
What do you see filling the vacuum jar in for the other 85%? Because, you know, going by the figures you were telling us there, you know, when someone isn't dealing with somebody, peat is different. Say the smaller peat producers has different markets. Does it look like it's going to be imported? Because if you have someone else buying something off you, you're not going to head down the road and sell it to another person. Would you agree?
Look, we're in a period of change at the moment, so there is other peat being produced out there by private producers in Ireland, so that will supply a volume to meet that demand. We also have another professional product, sod moss, that was harvested back a couple of years ago as well. And there's a volume there, probably about 20,000 cubes, which could help to meet a significant portion of the 2022 season.
Okay. In the line of briquettes, the peat for briquettes, have you enough of peat in store for briquettes up to the date that you were on about 2024? And what's the total peat you have around the country in total, bad, good or indifferent, in cubes or tonnage?
The volume of peat we've remaining on our peatlands at the moment is about 950,000 tonnes.
Right.
And we do have peat available to meet the date we mentioned previously in respect of the home heating residential. And we're continuing to manufacture briquettes at Derrenlock Briquette Factory.
Okay. You spoke earlier about employees. Direct employees working on a full-time basis, say 2015 and 2022, how much of a drop has there been, Ger?
There had been a drop of about 400 to 450 employees, and there's been a recruitment of about 200 to 250 employees back into the company in that same period of time. Okay. So the net drop is in the region of about 200 to 250.
Ger, we're being contacted by a lot of people. In actual fact, some of us, there was a meeting yesterday, even some of us went to it. The people that were renting turf, we're hearing, I know one place where there was an agreement done with Bord na Móna. My understanding is that you're willing to talk to communities, that there was agreements or talk to communities in relation to the turf cutting. Is that correct in saying? And on top of that, if there's a proposal put to you in relation to buying out a section from Bord na Móna that you're not liable for anything, are you open to that for local communities to do on a community basis with a plan to maybe the transition and reinstatement?
Deputy, I suppose of the turf cutting, as we would have said previously, Bord na Móna was a very small player in this particular sector. But I think if we look at the turf cutting, the legal position is quite important. So what I'll do maybe is hand over to my colleague, Miss Sonia Mallon, just to take you through.
No, but I didn't ask the legal. I know the legal position. What the question I asked was that previously we were being told that if there was agreements going back, which I have unearthed to, where there's affidavits being done, and those communities were willing to get together to buy a small portion, because these are small portions, these aren't anything massive or anything. Are you willing to sit down with those local communities and talk to them? I know the legal position, in fairness to you.
Well, I suppose like all companies, Deputy Fitzmaurice, we've got to go by the legal advice that we get. And then obviously that we need to adhere to the regulations that are in place. So again, look, from the legal position, from my understanding of it is, Board is very restrictive in what they can do in this space.
I understand that fully, and I'm not questioning, just get it clear, I'm not questioning the legal position. All I'm questioning is that where those agreements, if a community is willing to buy out a small section and it doesn't belong to Bord na Móna from then on, are you willing to sit down with communities where there was agreements to resolve the issues? It's a minimal amount, and it could actually get, it could be helpful to you in where you're re-wetting and all of that. Are you willing to do that?
Deputy Fitzmaurice, there's been no request that's come to me yet from a local community.
And I'm asking the question. I was at a meeting yesterday evening. I'm repeating myself over and over again. If there is, are you willing to sit down with that community?
Look, Bord na Móna is always willing to sit down with our local communities.
Okay, all right. In the line of
just 1 minute, Fitzmaurice. Miss Mahan wants to get in there. Maybe she has some clarification on that last point.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Deputy Fitzmaurice. Just to say what Ger has said, like I think Bord na Móna will always be willing to sit down with communities and discuss issues with them, but from a legal perspective, as Ger has already highlighted, it is difficult to isolate land for individual use for turf cutting. You know, we are concerned with regard to circumvention of the Environmental Impact Directive and the Habitats Directive, which was also confirmed in the judgment delivered by Justice Phelan last week.
I understand all that, but what I'm saying, if I buy the field is my baby. After that, it's not Bord na Móna's or anyone else. So that's all I'm saying. I welcome what you have said. I understand the legal side of it. I'm not questioning that whatsoever. But I'm talking about, and it was stated to me before, where there was cases where there was agreements done or whatever, and I think that's for us to follow up and talk to you, but I welcome what you said. In the line of Bord na Móna, Ger, and this is a case that I have here, a full file on it. Bord na Móna in 2009 and 2010 were promoting Willow. Eden Derry, I think, is the place that you were going, and a question Jordan it as well that you can just write down there when I'm giving you this, what I would call a sad story. Are you going to go for the licence for the power plant again? And on top of that, this situation where Bord na Móna were promoting Willow and farmers bought into it around the country around that time. I've a case here in Mayo where a farmer bought into it and they were told, and I know that you didn't know this, that to be going up the country, which would be a long distance from Mayo, but that say Lanesborough and Shannon Bridge down the road was going to be going down the Willow Road, or the Willow Road as well. And look at the court cases and all these things was a problem. I understand that fully. But ironically enough, when this farmer done it, and unfortunately this man had lost his son, and he was doing what he thought good for his family, and doing good for basically the climate and all of that. And it was sown, and there was an agreement done or whatever, and everything looked lovely. But the first year, and this is a person that's elderly, and you'd imagine someone sent out to advise somebody no more than if Chagas goes out to advise you to go through everything. The bridge on the road had to be widened for the machine to go in to cut it the first year. It's 8 or 9, 10, 11 years on the go, and to be honest about it, I'd give more to a child than what it has made over them 11 years. The ground wasn't suitable, to put it very simple. I have a letter here in my hand where the contractor has now said, we're not going in there anymore. I can send you a video of the routing that went on trying to take it out. Is there a way that Bord na Móna will sit down with farmers where mistakes have been made and resolve those issues? Because if it's not suitable, if it has been a disaster, it costs money to put it back into land. And where mistakes and people have been advised wrong, are ye prepared to sit down with that poor devil that's an elderly person that thought they were doing right?
Deputy Fitzmaurice, I'll pass it over to my colleague, Dr. John.
Thanks, Chair. Good evening, Deputy.
Yeah.
I think in the first instance, I'm not expressly aware of that particular case. I'm aware of other cases like that, but I think it's important to maybe point out that we have worked with individual growers, even though, you know, the contract, and I don't want to be too legalistic here, there's a lot of that going around today, don't want to be too legalistic, but the contract would have been simply an offtake agreement with a price that was indexed over time. But I am aware that there have been issues with getting contractors to areas where, let's be frank, Edenderry wouldn't have been the obvious destination for a willow crop. And I am aware that colleagues in the biomass procurement side of the house have specifically worked with contractors to get them onto those farmers. I don't know if it's the same one, but certainly in the west of the country, where, as I said, wouldn't necessarily be the most.
Just to inform you, I can send you a video of a field where the contractor, in fairness to him, I'm a contractor, I don't have the gear for that, but I wouldn't go into it if I got €1,000 an acre, to be quite frank about it, because all he was doing was getting stuck, and you were towing a machine that's valuable around the place. They have given a letter to that farmer that they are never coming back to do that again, because they're losing money and all they're doing is destroying the field. Now, what I am saying is, an elderly person to be advised, you'd look at soil. If I'm going ploughing the field, I look at the field and see is it fit for harvesting in the back end or whatever. And if that advice was given, are you willing to sit down when it's not working out? And I don't want to make a big deal about it. When it's not working out, and to put that field costs money back, there's gear somewhere in the north that puts it back into normal bit of ground again. And I have the figures of what it made over the years. It's actually embarrassing. I wouldn't like to show them to anyone, because people were always on about willow and the environment. And okay, a mistake has been made. Are you willing to sit down with the likes of those people and work something out with them to try and basically help them to get back to normality?
Look, as I said, I think we've already engaged, and I think we'll continue to engage with growers. And just maybe it's important to realise that the scheme would have been underpinned, not necessarily by Bord na Móna, but by the department was the initial scheme. We went in there to provide an offtake, long-term arrangement to give confidence, I suppose, to growers that there was going to be somebody there in relation to the final offtake or the final purchase of the material. But as I said, Deputy, we have engaged on a one-to-one basis, and we continue to engage in one-to-one
Right, well,
basis.
you might forward the committee your contacts, because I want to engage with you on this one to try and bring a solution to it. In the line of in the line of the recycling side of Bord na Móna, you won a large contract lately of recycling waste or plastic from a place in. Was that plastic recycled since you got it, or was it just brought to another place in the southwest of the county?
Deputy Fitzmaurice, I'm not familiar with the plastics contract you're referring to, so I'm not in a position to answer that question.
It was a contract, a large contract that you won. I thought you might be aware of it. And in the line of the power plant, are you going for planning permission to keep the power plant in going? I think it's up in 2024. Am I right in that?
It's up in December 23, so we have a planning application in progress at the moment, and we're awaiting a decision.
Okay.